guys, hey ludzie. I'm downtown filming today. I actually decided I would start this video off in front of the only palm tree in Warsaw. Hopefully you can see it there. It's not an actual palm tree that we're seeing in the city center of Warsaw. It's just a modern art exhibit called Greetings from Jerusalem. And it's a totally fake structure. It's made out of like steel, and I don't know exactly what goes into it, but it's kind of funny that it just sits here at a really central intersection downtown in Warsaw. And also, given our climate here, it would be unexpected to see. And yeah, today I'm going to be talking to you about
moving to Warsaw, Poland.
So I'm an American who has a Polish background, and I decided at the end of last year that I would move here. Yeah, today's just a really beautiful day, so I'm taking a walk downtown, and I thought I would share 5 reasons why I think that you should move to Poland, and 5 reasons that maybe persuaded me to move here. So they're a little personalized to being a student here and being an American choosing to live here. Okay, so the first reason that I'm going to give you for why you should move to Poland is that if you move here, you'll start dressing better.
I guess it applies to anywhere in Europe.
As an American, you're used to being able to leave the house and not really care what you look like. Here you have to be a little bit more conscious, and you know that look, like the sweatpants, the sweats, the slides, and like the messy bun. That's not really appropriate here, and you'll probably feel a little bit watched. There's like a bunch of trash being. People really try and pull themselves together a little bit more than in the US.
But I definitely feel more pressure to brush my hair here before I leave the house.
Another thing is this morning I brought this up to my grandma, and she immediately responded, described Americans wearing robes with curlers in their hair, going out in public. Okay, so the second reason why I would persuade you to move to Poland is for an education. So in Poland you can get a solid education on a budget, and public universities here are actually free. I don't know, thinking about how much higher education costs in the US, it can easily climb or rise above 150K for your degree, whereas here in Poland, if you go to a private university and do pay for your school, then it's going to be about 500 euro to 7,000 euro a year. So that's a huge difference. If you already know you want that degree, I think that it's just as valuable to get it abroad as it would be in the US. And yeah, it's no surprise that then education in the States leaves most students. I think the average student loan debt amount is about 30,000 US dollars. And here in Poland, like I tried doing a search, but I couldn't find any statistics about Polish student debt. I think that it might just not exist. I think this is also a difference in the way that Polish people don't spend money that they don't have, whereas in the US it's totally normal to take out that amount of a loan. Yeah, and I think that also can be seen in how Polish students often live at home when they get their bachelor's degree, whereas US students get kicked out of the nest at 18. And looking back now, it's really crazy to think about how myself and others were paying like 14,000 US dollars to live in a dorm room with 2 other people for 8 months out of the year. So yeah, come to Poland for your education, for your academic pursuits. There are a number of really great universities here. Here in Warsaw, the University of Warsaw, Jagiellonian University, a bunch of technical universities, really good medical programs, and for a really great price. So I was looking at statistics about this, and they said that 92% of Polish people, adults aged 25 to 60 something, have completed upper secondary education, and the OECD average, just stop, Alex. And the OECD average for this was like 70 something percent. So I think that you can trust the education system in Poland, at least through high school. Okay, it is also home to a lot of pigeons. Okay, so another reason why Warsaw, Poland is for its rich history and culture. It's really exciting compared to the US how much history you can find in European capitals such as Warsaw's. Most of the US isn't very old, like it doesn't date back. The most it would date back is a couple of 100 years, and so living in Warsaw, it's really cool. I know a lot of people say Warsaw is the ugliest city in Poland, but I actually think it's pretty great, and it's really interesting being able to walk around and see like old communist buildings built in the 70s lined up against new modern architecture, in contrast again back to and this old town which I'm walking through now, which was completely destroyed in the Second World War and has now been completely revitalized. It's really nice to have this added depth. It's really nice to have this added depth in the places that you're walking around, and you don't often see in the US, especially if you live in the suburbs. Especially if you live in the suburbs, but also just, yeah, in general. It's a really beautiful part of the city. It's usually where a lot of tourists are, but I think that there are so many places to sit around here. Like, I'm right off the main road here, but it's so quiet and peaceful. And I don't think that everybody here is a tourist, especially right now with lockdowns. But yeah, it's crazy to know that and then see what a hub of life it is for the city. I think that's pretty cool. I love holding this camera out in front of me. It's really great. I found a quiet spot in the old town. Beautiful. The sun is not yet going down, but we are in kind of a shady spot. Anyway, the quality of life here, I think, is pretty high, and I don't like it when I hear anybody talking about how things are insanely cheap in Poland, because they're not. You have to compare the prices and the cost of living to how much salaries are here, and I mean, they're pretty low. That being said, it's a pretty budget-friendly place for a student to live and anyone to live, and like you've probably heard, food is cheap here, most services are pretty cheap. I find healthcare here, even private, to be actually affordable, and I found that I'm actually going to the doctor. I haven't been to the doctor for a checkup in years. So I did a quick Google and I found that the cost of visiting a general practitioner in the States is about 2% of someone's annual salary, assuming that they're earning the minimum wage, whereas in Poland would be under 1%, maybe like 0.2%. And then adding to that, there's a lot of green spaces, which I take into account when I consider, you know, the quality of life in a city. And what else was I gonna add? Oh yeah, and then there's a lot of opportunity in Warsaw. So I was looking at GDP growth, and like it continues to increase. Between 2016 and 2018, it was like 3.1%, then 4-point-something% annual growth in Poland's GDP. Warsaw, especially here, There's so many jobs and so many companies relocating or opening up offices here, so it's no surprise, I guess, the unemployment rate in Poland is really low. And from what I saw, it is pretty low comparatively across Europe and the US. I have to look that up. Overall, people really enjoy their lives here, and there's a good work-life balance. People definitely work, but they also maintain family as a priority. I think being able to do that compared to New York especially, having a place where you can maintain that balance between work and life, and people really take the opportunity to focus and prioritize their family. Just being able to do that speaks for the quality of life here in Poland, and yeah. But yeah, so that's another reason to move to Poland. Yeah, so the last thing that I was going to mention as what I love about living in Poland and why I would recommend somebody else move here is, like, as an American, you're so dependent on having a car in most parts of the US, except for New York where I lived. But outside of that, yeah, you definitely need a car, and it's nice not to have one here either. And public transportation for the most part is reliable and affordable, and yeah, so that's just something that I love about living here in Poland and in Warsaw especially. We don't have as many metro lines as we do in New York, but for the most part, everything's pretty well connected, and it's just nice and easy and normal taking the bus, taking the tram to commute to work. Why am I out of breath? Anyway, that's what was going to be my last point, but I was really nervous to talk to people. After the conversations I had with people today, I feel like it would be wrong if I didn't say the Polish people are also really nice and friendly, and people in Warsaw aren't as scary as their reputation makes them out to be. At least among Polish people, Warsaw has a reputation for having kind of cold and unfriendly people. Wow, look at that ice cream line. And everyone I talked to was so nice and so friendly, and it was really easy to do.